Hello, how are you today? Hope you're doing well. Well, we have some interesting topics today. As we all know, we're all aware that COVID-19 has come crashing along on our planet Earth, and yes, we're all dealing with it. I'd like to talk to you today about how it impacts the dating mores of our young people. It impacts every age group, every kind of relationship there is that's anything intimate, anything within the family, anybody that you have to interact with. We're all getting a little paranoid. I mean, it's like, isn't letting up. And I think a lot of us are weary. A lot of us are emotionally tired of being home, tired of being confined, tired of being restricted into things that we're not used to. Let's face it, we had a pretty good life, especially here in America. We can go and come as we want. We go where we want to entertain ourselves. We have more access to leisurely times. And of course, if you're lucky, like I am and live in Florida, it's open season all year round. We don't have a snow season. So we are pretty much very mobile here in the southern states. So how does this affect the rest of us? Okay, this COVID dilemma. First place you have to realize there are 7.8 billion people across the planet Earth, okay? And every single one of us has been affected by this virus. So it's not just Americans, it's not just a few countries in Europe, it's definitely everywhere that we go. And the thing that we need to be aware of is that people have different opinions about it. Some people believe it isn't real, some people still say it isn't real and don't seem to be fearful of it. But at the same time, so many people have died. We've lost almost 500,000 people already, with the numbers mounting. And projections are that it will be worse towards March when more strains come into play. Okay, so this video is not about scaring people, but it's about making people aware to make wise choices in dating. Okay, how is this impacting dating? Well, it's pretty obvious. It's a many levels. First place, we are looking at finances have dropped. So whereas people could typically go out to eat, go to drink, go have dinner, that's where we meet. It's not happening, or at least it's not happening on the scale that we would have liked to. And of those young people that do still go out and go to different bars or different nightclubs, there's a lot more caution, hopefully, that they're paying attention to, such as their masks, washing hands, a little bit more skeptical to get involved. And of course, as we all know, anybody who's drinking, and once you have one or two or three drinks in an evening, you lose your sense of security, you lose your self-control, and then, you stop being cautious. And that's where you take your worst chances under the influence, of course. Okay, but it happens, and that's not something that we encourage people at this time, but yet there are individuals that are going to do it anyway. So here's what this story is. We're looking at how it affects we're looking at how COVID-19 impacts our personal demeanor, how we behave, how we control ourselves or we don't control ourselves with people. Maybe we're more reserved because we're a little afraid of people. So maybe we rush through the supermarket because we don't want to dilly-dally around and get and bump into somebody that we don't want to, things like that. And then, so personal demeanor is different. The other thing is the logistics of dating, because it's impossible to go to some bars that are closed. Some bars are so restricted, and some bars only have limited seating, so you're not going to be allowed in. And of course, I'm recording this the week of Super Bowl, so I happen to live in Tampa, and so therefore February 7th is a big hooray around here. You can just imagine with our own Bucks playing. I have to put a word in for the Buccaneers. And then, so the logistics of getting out there is much more cautious, okay? Our town is open right now, and yes, there's mandates for masks, but that's a little sacrifice to allow you to still go out there and enjoy some of it, or if you're going to your home games. But the logistics of dating under COVID-19 has really been strained. The problem is lack of establishments, lack of safety when you go out. And aside from that, the financial loss of people who have lost jobs. You don't have the $20, $30, $40 you might drop at a bar typically, because a lot of people are on unemployment or no employment and no income at all. Okay, so there's logistics. And then we have social exchanges are different. So for instance, if we're sitting together and we have masks on, there's certain nuances in our communication that you don't see. And as we all know, and we've probably heard this a million times, 80% of communication is nonverbal. So how I sit, how I talk, how I carry myself, how I express myself, if I smile, if I wink at you, you can still see the wink even above a mask, but 9 out of 10 times you don't get the whole connection and everything's a little awry. It's like, what is she got a twitch or is she winking at me? Which is it, you know? So those are things to think about. The social exchange is different. And then what we all need, if you want to date people and you want to see people, you can still do it in a safe manner, but you're going to have to increase your creativity, use your imagination. Outdoors are fine. Go for your walks, your hikes. We certainly have a lot of state parks in every state across the country. And, you know, so we're kind of lucky in that regard. So pick out an outing and have an outing day if that's what you care to do. But the problem is the trust factor between you and the person you're going to date. You want to know how cautious is the other person in keeping themselves from exposure, how often, you know, they are, the cleanliness habits, where do they work, how often do they go out, are they amongst a lot of people that could be at risk? And so all of these things are really, really cramping in the style of dating. It's not carefree anymore. It's not what it used to be. Now, typically, people between 20s and 30s, we're talking about millennials, and then you have Gen Z. So both millennials and Gen Z individuals delay having families anyway. It's not like it used to be. Everybody was waiting to get their career first, get themselves financially set before they take on a family. So they might have lived homes even after college for a while and then eventually build their career and get their apartment, and then they feel ready to look for a partner. However, right at the peak, when you're at your late 20s, maybe early 30s, looking for a partner, boom, comes COVID. So your looking for a partner is curtailed. Now we lost 2020. We did lose 2020 as far as the dating, socializing. People slowed down. People weren't going about dating the same way. 2020 was rough, but 2021 is off to a pretty slow start as well. It doesn't look too promising before we get everybody vaccinated. We're lucky if that happens by the end of the year, of all ages. So when do we have a safe environment to date again? That's something that's a big dilemma for the young millennials and the Gen Z generation. Because when we delay putting off a family, we all know how this is a domino effect. It changes the whole progression of our life together. That's longer that you're going to wait to get your funds together, longer that you're going to wait to maybe buy a house, get your life going, and maybe have children. And do you want to bring children into this current situation? So there's a lot of decisions to make. And as far as dating and relationships, it cuts across all ages. It's not just the 20 to 30-year-olds, but the point is that the 20 and 30-year-olds are more actively selecting or trying to select a life partner as they're out there. They're starting to mature. They start to see their friends have families and kids, and life is moving on. And a lot of them are now getting left by the wayside as they wait for this to pass or to improve, or for things to pick up. So even if you are out, if you're going to a bar, the interaction between two people, male, female, male, male, whatever your choices are, however you're interacting, the other party's automatically more cautious, or should be, because they're concerned about your habits, your hygiene habits, your exposure to the COVID. So now I not only have to worry about myself, keeping myself safe, now I have double indemnity because I have a partner that I have to worry about, okay? So there are ways to do that. And in fact, the New York State Department actually put out having sex over through the COVID crisis so that people could maybe endorse a few more healthy habits rather than jump in and expose themselves. Okay, this is not an era where we're looking for Mr. Goodbar. This is beyond that now. That would be really reckless at this day and age. So it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, because we have already had exposures, and there are different sex clubs in different places that have had raids where people are partying hard. And in one case, one club was raided, and it was a party of sexual exchange where 41 persons came out with cases of COVID. So there's no lackadaisical approach to this. You're either in or you're out. You know, which is it? Are you going to be conservative and try to protect yourself and your family members? Don't forget, because when you get sick, you're bringing it home to your mother, your father, your grandmother, whoever lives with you, nieces, nephews, anybody that you're in interaction with, your coworkers. So there's more to think about than just yourself. It's not just the moment that, oh boy, I want sex. I want to go find somebody and have sex. In fact, ironically, what's happening is really strange. The dating apps are saying that, for instance, like in 2017, there's studies done where 40% of couples met on a dating app, okay? 40% of couples who ended up together stayed on a dating app, met on a dating app. And about 70% of gays met on dating apps. So the dating apps are still there. You can still meet people, but the difference in approach with the dating app now is still maybe more questioning, slower to get to know each other, taking your time, having conversations. Before it was, hey, let's hook up, let's go meet, you check each other out, and if you like each other, you might have gotten together and hooked up. Okay, that's a little more dangerous now. You have a little more on the line, even than just a sexual disease. No one even wants the sexual disease, but now you're talking about life-threatening diseases in COVID. So yes, you better think twice as you're dating. So what can you do about it? The idea is, how do you go out and meet somebody under all these pressures that are there? And I'm sure you've thought of them, and I'm sure they're underlying a lot of stress that you experience in the day. The mental health of a lot of people are challenged right now because of this isolation, staying home. We're not used to it. Many people lost their jobs, went back to live with mom and dad. Stressors are mounting. So what we need to do is take a good look at the whole situation and try to figure out the parts of it that we can fix, that we can reinforce for ourselves and indemnify our future, our health. And then also realize the parts that you're going to have to let go. You're not going to have the same lifestyle you used to. Okay, so sorry if you're the flaming bachelor out there, sorry. It's a little bit different now, but it's okay. It's actually bringing us more meaningful. We're supposed to evolve in spending more time with ourselves, whether we are thinking, reading, going outdoors for hikes, go out in nature, get in touch with your own self. So try to use this time for a positive involvement. Maybe you're going to evolve by another career. Maybe you're going to stay home and study. Maybe you're going to work on some new classes that you thought you postponed for so long. Okay, all those things are very productive, but it also keeps your mind busy and allows time to pass. What you don't want to do is start to stay home and sulk, or go out and get reckless and say, okay, I'm sick of it, let's go. I picked the first lady or the first guy that I see, and there I go. No, that's not what you want to do. So you do want to be careful. The morale is down, there's no doubt about it, and it's up to all of us individuals to direct our ship, so to speak. We are the captain of our ships. So we are the ones who have to make a choice to work against this, to be happy within our home setting, whatever that is. If you're holed up in a small apartment, then go out and walk around. For instance, individuals are saying, statistics show that pets have become, there's hardly any dogs left in the dog pounds anymore because everybody's adopting pets because of the loneliness at home. And that's okay. That's a good thing. So what you should do is focus on how many fortifying elements you can put into your life, such as progressing, reading a book that you've been put off for so long, and maybe listening to some new music, or maybe acquiring a new skill. Maybe you're singing, maybe you're playing piano, drums, guitar, take lessons. Do all those things that you can do and build yourself up so that when this is finally over, you'll be ready to emerge again out into the open. Okay, so things like that are important to keep you going. Okay, so now let's say you do your online search. We're going to date now, so we got all the details out of our way about what COVID-19 involves. Let's talk about how do we go about dating. Okay, let's use the positive approach. Okay, so you see someone you like online, you contact them, and you start corresponding with each other. And all of that's positive, very positive. It's very important that the both of you talk about how cautious you are or what precautions you want to take. So if you meet on this date, do you wear a mask? And how long do you keep the mask on? Are you going out to dinner? And will it be an outdoor dinner? Or will you pack a picnic and just go out to a park? Will you actually kiss on the first date? That's going to be something that may or may not happen depending on how much chemical history you built up by corresponding over the internet with your online communication. Okay. A lot of guys don't want to do online communication. A lot of guys like, oh, let me check you out. Let me see you. We'll meet. And if I like you, we'll get together. If I don't, you won't. You won't hear from me. And if that's their choice, that's fine. But it's a little bit different now because people are more cautious and they do want to know where you're coming from. Ideally would be to meet people through other people. And so there's nothing wrong with somebody passing your phone number on to another person and you getting together on the phone talking and see if there's anything that you have in common. Because if there's not, there's no point in even getting together and taking a risk to expose yourself to any kind of the virus or anything. Okay? Sound like a game plan? So the game plan is to keep in mind what is hindering you from dating and what alternatives do you have to setting up more ideal situation. The more and more that both of you communicate, it's really important that you talk about this. The more you communicate about how cautious do you expect me to be, how straightforward and how what demeanors are we going to use? What facilities are we going to go to for fun or for dinner? Are we going to get a dinner to go, or are we just going to go sit in a park and eat our food? These are all alternatives. And there's so many outdoor activities that can be done that don't involve a big crowd, that don't involve the whole bar. And of course, one of the most ideal ones as you get to know each other and your trust builds up would be to cook a nice dinner for someone. Because obviously, as you know, February is Valentine's Day. It will be coming up soon. And we would expect that some couple who are involved with one another would want to have a romantic dinner together. And that's wonderful. Actually, you got to cultivate your cooking skills, okay? So maybe you want to take a cooking class together. And that, of course, would be modified by how the teacher sets along their provisions and cautions for the COVID virus. Those are things that you need to kind of keep in mind as you plan your future dates. Okay, so before we used to talk about what we like, what we don't like. Now we need to talk about how clean are you? How good is your hygiene? How often do you wear your mask? How often do you clean your mask? How often do you go shopping? How often are you interacting with other people? We have a whole different line of questions than is typical for dating, okay? But, you know, you don't have to hold yourself back. You just have to apply a different approach, okay? So you kind of do an inventory of what it is that you want. Make sure you understand what your limitations are. Are you terrified to take your mask off? Are you afraid to be touched by another person? Are you expecting to have sex as soon as you meet the other person? You better get that up front so that you don't send somebody off screaming. You don't want them to get so scared that they intimidate, because everybody's a little bit, has their dander up a little bit right now. Everybody's a little out of sorts. in dealing with some of this. And if you're not, shame on you, because there's plenty of news and tidbits to tell us it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter what geographic place you are. We're all vulnerable to being exposed to the virus. Now, if you happen to meet somebody through the dating situation that is a hypochondriac by nature, you're really in for a long haul. because the worry about the virus consumes their mind while you're talking to them throughout the date. So for you to make an unwarranted or undesired approach to touch them, hug them, or anything, it kind of turns them off real quick. So please be cautious. It's just being respectful of the other person's feelings, of their space, of their boundaries. We all have it. We all have boundaries, but you need to know there's a little bit more to it now under the face of risk of getting very sick or possibly dying. Nobody wants that. So let's hope that we all get vaccinated as fast as possible. But for those young people that are in the 20s and 30s, it looks like you're going to have to wait quite a while. Hopefully, by the end of summer, everybody will be. But I think you're in a hurry. I mean, everybody wants to meet people. That's human nature, to be with somebody. So you need to look at that. But if you carry yourself in a respectful manner, just as you would with persons who that you were dating before, the only extra element is now that you need to be more aware of people's fears, vulnerabilities, and concerns with the virus, okay? If you don't have the same level of concern, it's not gonna work, because while you may think it's nothing and it doesn't exist and there's nothing to be afraid of, your date for that evening may have a totally different perception. So the two of you should really get that straight before you even have a date, okay? So the days are kind of gone where you go to the bar and pick somebody up and get lost with them for the evening. Nobody's jumping out that quick unless they're really under the influence, which hopefully you wouldn't take advantage of, okay? So dating is very possible. It's definitely moving at slow motion. Everybody's moving slowly. People are not out as often as they were. And in certain cases, you can see the difference when you watch the body language of people who are going to be kind of held up and a little stiff, whereas normally they probably would be leaning in, laughing, joking, maybe touch your hand, your arm, and that's not going to happen right now as everybody gets to know one another. Now, if you watch my other video, the Johari window, you'll see why that window opens after we get to know each other more. That window of relaxedness where you can let more of myself out so that other people get to know me. But in the beginning, everybody's so afraid of this COVID situation, they've kind of crawled back into themselves. And that's a natural response when there's a fear factor. And the fear factor is of catching the disease. So please be aware of that and know that it's not just you yourself on this date who has concerns, but your partner may have many more than you expected. So get that question out of the way pretty soon before you get to meet each other, so that you don't overstep the boundaries and you don't alienate somebody and put more fear in them, because it is definitely impacting the dating scene, okay? So what does this mean? Does this mean you shouldn't date? No, that doesn't. It means you still should date, but be willing to discuss these different issues with your date. And the fact that a lot of people are unemployed or can't work, it doesn't matter. You can have a wonderful date and a very pleasant date, you know, just pack up a picnic and go out to a state park, or, you know, and keep your mask on if that's what you both decide on. You have to decide that together. And then you go out for your picnic, enjoy it. Of course, you're going to have to eat with each other, but when you're outside, you shouldn't worry so much. But something like that is very non-threatening. You can go for a hike, go for a bicycle ride together. You can go for an excursion at a museum or at a flower garden. And of course, Where I am, I have lots of beautiful beaches to go hike across the beach. So you can go to a beach. The main premise is wherever you go, you remain aware of your date's concerns, your date's boundaries, and your own boundaries. Make sure you make it known if you're the one who's afraid and you're a little more cautious. It's okay either way. But yes, is all this virus going to impact us long term in our life? Yes, it probably is. You're not going to move as quickly as you thought you were. You're not going to have your life all planned out in the next 2 or 3 years so that, everything moves fast. Now, conversely, it does work the other way with some couples who already were established and they decide to kind of unify their union or solidify their union through a formal marriage quicker than perhaps if the COVID virus wasn't here. So it has worked the other way, where people get together even quicker because they want that one monogamous relationship that they don't have to worry about people going out exposing themselves to the virus. And that's fine too, if it works for you. So right now, it's kind of like consider yourself a dating explorer, because the mores or the normal techniques or the typical habits of dating are very much on guard right now and being revolutionized, changed, supplemented, creatively developed. And you're going to need to sit down and see what each other would enjoy and develop your course of action from there. Okay. But I think rather than sitting home and sulk or just stay in isolation and kind of lose your social skills altogether, you do want to stay active, but you can do that cautiously, even through the apps or through people and do what it is that you enjoy in your spare time on your own. When that happens, if you develop new habits, new interests on your own, by the time you do come to a relationship, you have more to bring to the surface. So maybe you got a new habit. Maybe you learned how to play guitar. Maybe you learned how to cook Italian food and you're going to make fantastic dinners. And all of that time that you spent alone now contributes to the richness of your new future relationship. Make sense? I hope so. But trying to give you a little food for thought, and do realize that because we're changing, because our social mores are changing, financially, emotionally, and socially, we don't have the outlets. There's a whole change around about the dating situation. So be creative, be open-minded. Do not remain rigid. Realize that there's no box that it all fits in. Every couple has to find this out for themselves and work at their pace. The most thing I would recommend for any couple as you're approaching a new dating situation is very plain and basically, be a gentleman or be a lady, and do bear in mind the other person's feelings when you're making your choices, okay? Because you have that responsibility now. If you're going to carry yourself recklessly and go get yourself exposed to the virus, now you have that responsibility of bringing it back to your new partner or your new dating partner or girlfriend, however you progress, okay? So keep that in mind. It's real. It's very real. And see how creative you can get. So in the future, we may have a challenge, a dating challenge of how many creative ways you can think of a dating, how to spend an evening for the next 2 weeks. Wouldn't that be fun? All right, so possible, very possible. But know that you're not alone in any of this because, as I said, 7.8 billion people are going through this. Dating changes have occurred in every country. Interactions between couples has changed. And there's so much more that happens at every age group and every situation within the union of people with partners. And we're going to talk more, and I'll have more videos on other age groups as well. But for now, we're just talking about dating and really taking in reference the young people from 20 to 30. So remember, You're not the only one going through this. Every age group. I mean, I even talked to some junior high kids, and they're upset because they missed their 8th grade dance because there was no dance last June. That's a social kind of coming of age dance that we all go through in school, and they missed it, and they're very sad about that. They feel like they missed something big. So we're going to have to find creative ways to get everybody moving along again, okay? Just bear with it a little bit longer. And meanwhile, work on yourself, work on your habits, your hobbies. I mean, yes, your good habits, your good hygiene habits. And who knows, you'll come out of this with a whole new skill. Maybe you'll come out with an opera voice, or maybe you'll come out, playing guitar like Santana, one of the greats. Okay, so keep that in mind. Good luck to you all. Please stay safe. And know that you're not alone in this. You just need to get a little bit more creative. All right? If you have any concerns, please leave a comment down below. If you enjoy this video, by all means, let me know in the comments below, and subscribe if you can. I like that. Give me a thumbs up. And I have many more for you to look at. So while you're going through this sort of like limbo of dating, take a look at my other videos on communication, because in the long run, you're going to need all of them in our adult life. Okay, that's it. Over and out. This is Dr. Felicia Ferrara saying, God bless and walk in light. God bless.